What's going on, guys? It's a Horse Beef here, bringing you another tier list video. In this one, we're doing the biggest robberies in UFC history. This is what I'm passionate about because my favorite fighter gets robbed too many times. So let's talk about it, all right? Let's get into it here. Carlos Condit versus Robbie Lawler, if my mouse would work. Here we go. And I feel like this one deserves to be pretty high up on here, as Carlos Condit should have won this fight, I would say pretty clearly, 4 rounds to 1, right? All judges' scorecards should agree on that. But Robbie Lawler was awarded this fight despite getting pieced up for the majority of it, getting hurt on multiple occasions. Carlos did get dropped, I believe, I think it might have been the 3rd round where he gets dropped, but it's really the only round where you can really give it to Robbie Lawler. Carlos's chin is honestly pretty legendary. If you've never seen Carlos Condit fight, I recommend watching him. His striking was something to behold, and his chin was insane. He was fast, would mix up insane combinations, just really threw Robbie Lawler for a loop, and he was just too much for him in this fight, and I think he should have been given the victory quite clearly. So Carlos Condit, I'm putting that in A tier. Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero. This is a fight that I do consider to be a robbery, because fights are supposed to be scored by damage, and all Izzy did was backpedal and land leg kicks, while the big overhands and the big shots that really spooked Izzy were landed by Yoel Romero, of course, because Izzy was spooked. The first big overhand left that landed in the first round, Izzy just decided, yeah, I'm gonna pussyfoot around this octagon for the majority of this one, and I just don't think that should win you a decision. I know Yoel was pretty static himself. He was also a reason why the fight was boring, but for volume's sake, I guess, yeah, Izzy did land more volume. So for volume's sake, I'm not going to score this one high. I'm actually going to score it quite low on here. And I'm not even an Izzy fan. I'm actually the opposite of an Izzy fan. I'm an Izzy hater. I go out of my way to hate Izzy. That is a joke. I don't hate the guy, but I'm just not a huge fan. But even with that information, I'm still putting this in D tier. I don't feel like it's the worst robbery on the list. Michael Bisping versus Anderson Silva. You see, this is one that I'm very confused about. All right. 5th round. As you see in this image right here, Silva pings him with a front kick up the middle and hurts him bad. He drops him and should have had a finish to the fight where he landed that flying knee on Bisping at the end of the round when Bisping was asking for his mouthpiece. But he was so static and just fucky the whole fight, just fucking around and giving Bisping opportunities to get offense off and win the optics battle. So for that reason, I can't put it high. I'm actually going to put it in D because Anderson Silva did it to himself. Even though I do think that the fight should have been stopped after the flying knee, in all honesty. But respect to Bisping for fighting back after that. But I'm putting it in D as well. Lyoto Machida versus Shogun Rua. Machida won this one. It was quite clear that Shogun had won this fight. It's tough because this is one widely regarded as one of the worst decisions. And I do agree. Machida's karate style was completely shut down. Completely shut down by Shogun's Muay Thai. The leg kicks were nasty. He was landing a lot of leg kicks too in this one. I'll put it in B tier as far as robberies go. GSP versus Johnny Hendricks. I remember watching this one live. My brother, I was gonna say my brother at the time, as if he's no longer my brother, but my brother was a big Johnny Hendricks guy and a big GSP hater, and he was convinced that Johnny Hendricks won the fight. And as a kid, of course, you listen to whatever your brother says. But after rewatching the fight, this is not a robbery. Just because GSP looks like he got hit by a truck, because he did get hit by a truck. Johnny Hendricks hits like a fucking truck, at least he used to. This roided up version, and Johnny Hendricks was on juice at the time. So why are you defending Johnny Hendricks, man? We saw what happened to his career after USADA came in, when he could no longer juice himself to the gills. So even if it's a robbery, you shouldn't care because Johnny Hendricks is a cheater. At the same time, I don't even think it was a robbery because you need to score fights round by round. Considering a fight a robbery because of how one guy looks at the end of a 5-round fight makes no sense, because that damage could have been done in the first round. And then what? All of a sudden, that's now compound damage that now gives you a reason to give that fighter who did that damage in the first round every other round preceding that one because of damage that was done in the first round. It makes no sense to me. So I don't think this was a robbery at all. I do understand the argument for it, but I'm going to put it in C tier. I think this one perfectly belongs in C tier because Johnny did land big shots and hurt GSP at times and have him in big trouble, but GSP was so clean on the feet. He showed to have a very good chin because Johnny Hendricks was knocking dudes out clean with those shots that he was landing on GSP, and GSP was eating them on wobbly legs at times, fighting back. This was the fight where he showed exceptional grit and determination. This for me is honestly one of my favorite performances of GSP's because he weathered that storm against such a force of nature like Johnny Hendricks at the time. So yeah, I'm going to put that in C tier. I think it belongs there. Robert Whittaker versus Israel Adesanya. This one I feel belongs in a similar category here because I don't think it's an egregious robbery. Do I understand the argument that Adesanya won the fight once again? Same argument with the Romero decision. Backpedaling, leg kicks. Robert Whittaker, from what I remember, was constantly landing the jab, and then he'd follow up with the left hook, and he kept landing that combination. He was landing majority of shots to the head, landed a nice, I believe, left hook at the end of the 5th round. I don't know. For me, Whittaker looked too static. Adesanya looked too static. He didn't really do a whole lot. Whittaker was scoring takedowns and landing on the feet. I don't know. It looked like Whittaker deserved to win the fight 3-2. But fights that are that close, you can almost always expect it to be scored for Adesanya. I knew watching this fight, I knew it was going to be scored for Adesanya, but I did think it was a robbery when watching it. So I'll put that in C tier. Khamzat Chimaev versus Kamaru Usman. I think this deserves a similar placement because it's not egregious, but you see the argument for it. When watching the fight live, I did think Usman won round 2 and 3 off of damage. Like, seriously, everyone cries damage this, damage that. But this damage argument is not applied when your favorite fighters are being benefited by shitty decisions. So we need to be objective about things. We can't just be biased because I'm not biased one bit. And bias is bad, people. So let's get into this. Petr Yan was robbed. This is one of the worst UFC decisions of all time. I could not believe it while watching it. The first round was so inactive from both men that the flurry followed by this beautiful slam. I mean, look at him slamming Sean O'Malley right there. A thing of beauty. Beautiful slam. That moment right there should win you the first round when the majority of it was completely inactive on both sides. Second round, clearly Petr Yan's. Sean did hurt him in that round, but then Peter instantly comes back with a disgusting overhand left that put him on skates and then just dominates him on the ground. And then the third round, which is apparently the one round that you have to give to Sean O'Malley. But why do you have to give it to Sean O'Malley? Because he lands a knee up the middle that opens a cut. So one singular strike that opens up a cut midway through the round. But then what happens for the remainder of the third round? Petr Yan proceeds to dominate it and piece up Sean O'Malley with disgusting counters, takedowns, pretty much just reaching into his full bag of tools, pulling them out and using them on Sean O'Malley, which he had no answer to. All Sean did was land a knee up the middle. All those shots landing off of or bouncing off of Petr Yan's guard, they're nothing, right? And all these UFC quote-unquote fans like to go and cite these official stats for round 3 and say, see, he tripled his total strikes. But when you watch the round, that does not tell the same story. You need to watch fights with your eyeballs and not focus on numbers. Petr Yan was robbed egregiously in this fight, and I will not stand for it. And honestly, this robbery is what spurred me on to make this video because I need justice for Petr Yan, but I know I will not get it. Alexander Gustafsson versus John Jones. This is a pretty bad one. Honestly, Gus pieced up Jones in the first 3 rounds. I thought for sure he wins the first 3. So if you can undoubtedly give 3 rounds to one guy, and John Jones himself did not win himself any 10-8s in the 4th or 5th. So there's really no argument to give the fight to John Jones. But it was just close enough in certain rounds to where the argument, like if you really want to try your best to argue with me, then okay, sure, we can get somewhere. But I will die on this hill. Gustafsson was robbed, but I'm going to put it in B tier. I feel like that's a good spot for it here. Valentina Shevchenko versus Alexa Grasso. Now, it's a weird one because neither lady ended up with a win here. It was a draw, I believe a split draw. And the reason why it's such a bad robbery is because one judge scored, I believe it was the 5th round, a 10-8 for Alexa Grasso, which is the reason why this was a split draw, because of a nonsensical 10-8 scorecard. So because of that, clear oversight from the judge or potential corruption. I mean, I can't make accusations, but you know what I mean? I don't know. It's a weird one. I don't know. Maybe she retained her title though. It was pretty bad. I find it hard to look past a suspicious 10-8 scorecard. So I think maybe because of the scorecard alone, I'll put it here. I'll put it right here. Macy Barber versus Miranda Maverick. Now this was the case of two like young up and coming female fighters fighting one another, and one of them having to get robbed. It seems like the UFC just preferred to promote Macy Barber, I guess, because Miranda Maverick clearly won this one. I don't want to dwell on this one for too long, but it is honestly really bad. It almost deserves to be up here somewhere. It was really bad. Yeah, it was really bad. I'm going to put it in A. Matt Hamill versus Michael Bisping. Complete domination of Michael Bisping. Bisping gets the decision. It's really not that deep. That's just how it was. Bisping got dominated against Matt Hamill. So I'll put it in A tier. It's pretty bad. I recommend watching the highlights for the fight, or watch the full fight if it interests you. Ross Pearson versus Diego Sanchez, another terrible robbery. This one honestly deserves to be in the Petr Yan was robbed section, because Ross Pearson clearly wins all 3 rounds, even drops Diego Sanchez at one point, I believe. One judge did score it 30-27 for Ross Pearson, and the other 2 judges scored the fight for Diego Sanchez, and one of them even going as far to score 30-27 for Diego Sanchez. You know there's something going on when 2 judges disagree on a fight that much, to the point where where one is scoring a shutout for one fighter and one scoring a shutout for the other. Makes no sense. It's a terrible robbery. Watch this fight, man. Dominic Reyes versus John Jones. This is such a terrible robbery because it's the same situation as the Gustafsson fight. You cannot score any of the opening 3 rounds for Jones. You just can't. Reyes pieced him up. And it hurts even more knowing that Dominic Reyes' career went so downhill after this fight. I'm going to put it in A tier. I think it deserves to be in there for sure. I mean, it's pushing this, but it wasn't like a 5-round shutout. You know what I mean? Like Ross Pearson versus Sanchez was like a 5-round shutout. Petr Yan versus O'Malley was a 3-round shutout. Dominic Reyes versus John Jones wasn't exactly a shutout, right? There are rounds that you can give John Jones. So that's why I'll put it at A, but it's a terrible robbery. Jared Gordon versus Paddy Pimblett. This one is almost in the Petr Yan was robbed section. I feel like it almost deserves to be up there because Jared Gordon absolutely dominated Paddy Pimblett. He, in this fight, exposed Paddy Pimblett for what majority of us already knew he was. A hype train. He's a pair of lips. That's all he is. He's a mouth. He's a funny accent, a stupid haircut. He's not a great fighter. Paddy Pimblett is an awful fighter. He is not UFC caliber, in my opinion. And this fight proved that, because Jared Gordon has no title aspirations. Yet he put a beat down on Paddy. I think he won all 3 rounds. Is a terrible decision. And the fact that this new UFC like cash cow from the UK gets that robbery decision, right, makes it even worse. It's the same situation as Petr Yan versus O'Malley. You know O'Malley's that guy that the UFC is trying to push, so Petr Yan needs to take the fall for it. And the same thing happened to Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon had to take the fall for Paddy's quote-unquote success. You got pieced up by Gordon. Eat shit. Valentina Shevchenko versus Amanda Nunes. I believe this is the second fight. It is a pretty bad robbery, honestly. I think it deserves to be in B tier. It sucks, man. Shevchenko's been robbed too many times. And then we get to the last one of the video. Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling 2. Now this doesn't even deserve to be up in Petr Yan was robbed, because you know what, guys? And this is my proof that I'm the most non-biased individual in the MMA space. You guys know I'm the biggest Petr Yan fan. I would do anything for Petr Yan. Absolutely anything. Use your imagination. If you can think it up, oh man, I would do it. I am just joking. But this is not a terrible robbery. Okay, the first round, same case as in the O'Malley fight, was very inactive, but Peter didn't have his moment, and Aljamain Sterling threw volume and won the optics battle, despite nothing of note really landing in that round from either guy. Okay, for seeding rounds, there are two very dominant rounds to follow, with Petr Yan coming on strong in the end. But because the first round was so close, I feel like, I don't know. I understand how you can give the first round to Sterling, and there are two rounds in there that are inarguably Aljamain Sterling's. One of them could even be scored at 10-8 because of control time. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, Petr Yan. I hope Peter doesn't see this. I hope this doesn't change our relationship. But he's got to be in D tier. I don't actually consider it to be much of a robbery at all, in all honesty with you guys. And then we get into Dricus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland. Now, I don't think this one was a robbery at all, but I felt like I had to include it because a lot of people did find it to be a robbery. This, I thought, was pretty clearly Dricus's fight. He was dealing damage. He was landing big shots. Sean was landing a bunch of jabs, did bust up Dricus's eye. And Sean did get cut open, but I don't really care. Like I said, I don't really care too much about superficial damage unless it affects the fight. If it impacts the fight, it makes sense. I don't think Dricus or Sean were affected by their respective damage dealt on one another, so I don't really consider it. So you pretty much just have to look at the strikes landed. And to me, Dricus was landing the bigger shots in the majority of rounds. I personally gave him 3. I think you can even argue that Dricus won 4 rounds out of that fight. I just think that Sean Strickland doesn't throw with enough venom on his punches. So if Dricus is slinging giant overhands and landing something, like, I understand that neither one was in any real danger of being finished during this fight, but optics and also just damage-wise, I would give it to Dricus. I don't care that he had an eye that was swelled. That people like to compare the two of them and say one looked like fucking Sloth from the Goonies and one looked like Kratos. Who gives a shit? Dricus went out there and slugged it out with Sean Strickland. This was honestly an incredible fight. I love the fight, so I hate the fact that it is shrouded in so much controversy that isn't even warranted. So I'm putting it in D tier. And finally, we have Robert Whittaker versus Yoel Romero 2. I don't know if I really care if this one is a robbery, because Yoel Romero missed weight, so he wouldn't have taken the title off of Whittaker even if he got the decision. So it is inconsequential whether it's a robbery or not. But was it even a robbery? I didn't think so when watching the fight. But Romero did hurt him in 2 of the rounds. Is it enough for a 10-8? No, because Robert did come back and land damage of his own. I don't know. It's another absolute middleweight banger. I don't know if I can put it all the way down here because Romero did hurt Whittaker, but I also have to put it all the way down here because I just don't think it matters. I really don't think it matters, and Whittaker did have a lot of success in this fight despite getting dropped. And I don't know if getting dropped necessarily loses you a round. There was one of the rounds, I forget which one it was, but one of the times when he was dropped, there was an extensive period where Yoel Romero was all over him landing big shots, but then Whittaker himself would come back and then land a head kick. You know, I don't know. This fight to me I think is overblown when it comes to calling it a robbery. So I'm going to say it is a D tier robbery along with Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis. Anyway, that is the video. That is a tier list. Let me know in the comment section below if I missed anything, any robbery that you guys would have liked to see represented on here, and let me know in the comment section below what those would have been and where you would have ranked these if you think I got these wrong. But I know based off the last tier list video, I know that you all agree with me and think that my takes are absolutely primo. So I'm sure I'll be disagreed with absolutely not at all in the comment section. But still, let me know your thoughts. Anyway, guys, I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.